Hey everyone, how are we tonight? Welcome, Louise. Hey everyone, how are we tonight? Who have we got in tonight? Sorry I've not been here the last couple of nights. I live in the back of Beyond in Abersock, and when we have storms, the internet goes funny. It's yeah, it's crazy. So we're here tonight. Hi Carl. Hey Bashi, hope you're good. And so tonight I just thought I'd talk about clipping, because people keep sending me projects to mix and they're over clipped. So I wanted to talk about the side effects of clipping and what it's used for. So clipping, if you don't know, is used to reduce the dynamic range, a bit like a compressor and a limiter. But what a clipper does in hard clipping is just slices off the top. And soft clipping, you round it off going into it. But they've got different sounds of what they produce. But they have a side effect. Everything you do has a side effect. And the hard clipping has a real digital distortion, or a real, you know, like I'm going to show you in a second, and it's a bit different on the bottom end. So you need to know which kind of clipping to use for what you're trying to achieve. The key thing about clipping is knowing that you are adding this distortion. And if you clip everything, you're going to add all this distortion in your mix, and it's going to smear your mix. It's going to affect your transients and the punch of your track. So you've got to be very careful about what you do. Before we go into the clipping, I'll tell you what I do to understand what needs clipping. So on each bus, I put an oscilloscope like this. Okay. And I look at each thing. So the kick bus is red, the bass bus is yellow, the vocal bus is like blue, and so on and so on. Okay. So I look at, before I start clipping, I look into something like this. So I'll look at it, okay, and let me just take this off the screen. So I'll put an oscilloscope on each bus and colour it so I know what's what. And then it will play them all together. We can look at them separately, or we can look at them overlapped. Okay, and what this will show me is this. The first thing that I know is in my kind of music is the kick's going to hit the limiter when it gets to mastering first of all. And the most energy which is here is the kick and the clap. And if the bass is on the kick, the bass and the clap together. So what I'll do is I'll use this to visualize which is the loudest instruments and which are going to need clipping based upon the kick. Okay. So I can see there's a little something there with the bass that's happening. Okay. And I can see that the kick is still the loudest thing. So I know that when the limiter hits, it's the kick it's going to work on first of all in this particular track. So all I know is that when it comes to this track, I'm going to have to work on the kick. And if you look, you know, every now and then where the clap is, it's a bit louder. So I'm going to think to myself, right, the limiter's going to hit the kick first and break up, and then it's going to start hitting other things. So what I want to do is reduce the output of everything, so that the voltage into the limiter, so it has less work to do. Now, the distortion you're going to get by using a limiter on everything together is going to be less than if you treat them individually. But you've got to be mindful of the side effects and all the distortion that you're adding in. But what I do is I use my eyes first of all. I don't just clip for the sake of clipping. So in this track now, I can see the kick's really loud, okay? So the first thing I'm going to ask myself is, can I turn the kick down? Well, no, I like the volume of the kick. So okay, What I'm going to do is I'm going to clip the kick. I'm going to try and bring that down. I might try compression, which I have got a bit of a dBx on. I might try saturation, which is soft clipping. And I might try limiting. I don't think a limiter sounds great on a kick. So I'm going to get K-clip up. On the kick. And what I'm going to do is just push it with the link on soft clipping until it starts reducing it. But I'm going to use my eyes. I'm going to do this in isolation. I'm going to use my ears. Okay, let's have a look at this. I've pushed it till I could hear it changing, then I pulled it back a little bit. But look at all this. This is how much it's reducing the volume. So if we go to the kick and we look at the volume before the clipper, and after the clipper, we've taken off 3 dB, okay, by adding soft saturation and clipping it, very soft clipping. Now, can you hear a difference? That's with the clipping. Without. Can you hear a difference? Okay, the A/B on and off. Okay, it's adding a bit of distortion. It's taking away from the bottom end of it. So I'm going to reduce it and A/B it again. Okay, so I've still taken off 2 dB. But what's it done? Does it just sound better? I've made 2 dB of headroom before it hits the limiter. Let's have a look at the oscillator, what that's done. So we can see it's taken off quite a bit and it sounds okay. But what has it done? Is it as simple as that? We can just then apply that to everything else in the track and go, okay, we're going to get this louder later on. And that's how people think, you know, and that's how I first thought when I got introduced to it a while ago. But now what you're doing is you're introducing this. So with this plugin, we've got Delta mode. So if I press this here, and we'll listen to the kick in solo. We're adding that distortion into the mix. Now, you might go, well, that's okay, actually. I quite like the tone of that and the timbre of that. It kind of works with it a little bit. That's true, it does. Let's turn it off. Now, I think it's taking a bit of the bottom. I don't like exactly what it's doing to the bottom end perfectly. It might take a little bit less off that. But the question you've got to ask yourself is this, right? is what is all that distortion doing in the track? What, you know, if I duplicate this, and I look at it, and I freeze and flatten that one. So the question is you're adding extra stuff into your mix to try and get it louder. And if you're not amazing with your ears and really understanding what it's doing, and you can't do your frequency character recognition, see exactly what it's doing to the transients, you've got to ask yourself, should I be doing this? You know, and most people shouldn't. I'm just going to bounce it to audio, see if it. See, it's not flattened it too much. It's quite good. So that's okay on this. But let's look at some other things we might put it on. Before we do that, I'm going to highlight the difference between hard clipping and soft clipping, how it sounds, right? So let's just say we're going to hard clip this. We're just going to slice off the top of it. Hear that distortion's coming in. Now let's listen to the kind of distortion that's doing. And I'm going to go from hard to soft. It's not as nice, that, is it? That distortion that it's adding, the difference, is more like it's a part of the kick. And that's why it sounds, and that's why the kick doesn't sound distorted. You know, you could probably trim this a little bit and not notice it in hard clip. But for now, we're going to keep soft clip. What I'm doing is I'm using my ears, I'm listening to the bottom of the sound, the mid, the top, listen to the tone of it and seeing how it's changing it until I can hear something. But let's listen to that on a hi-hat. So I'm going to link it, I'm going to hard clip it. It's just starting to get rid of the transients a little bit, the attack of it. Can you hear the attack of it? You're taking away the transient of it. So I'd say that's about the point there, right? Where it's going into the transient and doing everything else. We can do frequency isolation with metric AB and try and identify it more. So let's have a look what that's done to it. So before K-clip, it was minus 21.4 with it. Minus 24.7. So we've saved 3 dB of that hat going into wherever it's going into. Now, this is the key to this. This is why I use the oscillator. If that hi-hat's never going to hit the limiter or be limited at the mastering stage, why would I want to clip it? Because it's only adding this. Let's listen to the delta mode. So when people send me tracks, they clip everything, but what they're doing is they're adding all this distortion into the mix. Okay. That's why I use the oscilloscope. We don't want to be adding that into the mix. We don't want that. Every now and then you can clip and add a distortion that is really good. And I do use it for that every now and then, but you've got to be mindful. You don't need to put it on everything. So you need to reduce the crest factor of each sound using whatever tools you've got. But you've got to hear what it's doing to the sound first of all, but you've got to be mindful that all that distortion that you're adding into your track is going to affect your transients. It's going to affect the punch. And it's going to affect particularly your top end with all the hard clipping. And you don't necessarily want that. So what I always do is I'll put a lot of clippers on everything for clients, and I'll link them all up by a key command so I can mute them all and turn them to delta easily, or just mute them all at the same time and listen to the mix before and listen to the mix after. If you're in Logic, you can just put them all on the same kind of position in the mixer, in the channels, and then you can highlight all the channels and turn them on and off because there'll only be the clipper on that level of the inserts. So you've got to be really mindful about clipping. And for me, I want my sounds to be as pure as possible. You know, I don't want to distort something for the sake of distorting it. You know, if I feel like it needs distorting, I will add it. Now, clipping, you've really got to be mindful. It destroys mixes. And if we take that off, don't know what's happened there. So to use your oscilloscope and look at everything and look and see what needs to be looked at. I don't know why that kick's just gone dead loud there. And you can, we'll just turn this down. So normally you could see what's popping through. So before on the bass, you know, this little thing here might need looking at. But don't necessarily just go to a clipper, try compressor, try a limiter to do that first of all. Because remember, the limiter and the master is going to hit this bit first, right? And the more it starts compressing, the more it's going to distort it. And if your track is like this was before it went crazy, oh, that's why. So if your track's like this, and you know, you're thinking, okay, well that's the most energy there, and there's something going on here. There's no hi-hats coming through, because look, they're there. The music's fine, it's nowhere near. So what's going to happen is the threshold is going to hit the kick here. The more it starts limiting, the quicker it's going to start distorting, right? And then it's going to hit this clap and it's going to hit this bass. So maybe I just need to work on the clap, the kick, the clap and the bass. I don't need to work on the hi-hats at all, and I don't need to work on the music. So why introduce that distortion for no reason at all? There's just no reason to do it. So look at the bass. I'd probably use a limiter on that, see what works. You know, look at the kick like we've done there. So let me put that one back on. And I might go, you know, there's nothing, I like the kick of that volume. There's nothing really poking out of the track. Yeah, hi Helix, sorry about that. Hi Techem. Hi House You. Hi Les Like. Hi Blank Poster Music. Some new people on tonight. Hey Aaron, hope you're good. Hey Nine. So clipping, it can ruin your mix, and you've got to be very, very mindful. And before you go into clipping, maybe you'll be able to use something else like a limiter. So if I look at this bass here, so I can see there's just something that's creating that. Is that the is that the bass? Is there a clip in the bass? No, so I might just try a bit of a limiter on that. First of all, I don't necessarily want to go straight into clipping it, but let's have a look at it. Let's just try the clipping anyway. You know, a bit of saturation in the bass might help it. Okay, take it back, link it. Okay, that's not getting rid of it. It might be in the note. I might need to look at the note in particular. So that's not making any difference with the clipper. Maybe I will try a limiter. The first one up that I've got. No, I don't like it. I don't like what it's doing. Maybe I'll try a hard clip on that one. Or maybe I'll just leave it for the master engineer to look at it. No, it's adding distortion and it's bringing that clip out even worse. So with that there, I'd probably go into the audio file, see if there's another note that's exactly the same, or look at it why that might be clipping. Look at it. might do is just go into the audio file. It might be a little something like that. Is it the end of it? This one. The thing is, you never know because there's a delay with it. All right, yeah, it's the wrong note. It's because of the timing. So what I'll do is go into it. Just do this. It sounds like a bit of a this, pull that in, do it again. That's it. That's it. Got rid of it. If I'm looking to fix anything with any kind of procedure, the first thing I'll look at is the synth, the audio, try and do it in there, because every effect has a side effect. So as you heard with the clipping, that has one. And really what was going on then was a must have, that must be the bar of, so this has been into the SP, and what's happened is I've recorded it in and I've not faded the end of it properly. And that's what's happened. And that little click has come from that. So let's have a look at this again. So now it's not coming through. So whilst we're talking about mixing for loudness, the sample choice is really important. You know, we want a really, really good sample, like an analog kick. I've just bought this actually. I've just bought this. It's an analog kick machine. And everything analog sounds better. It's got, it seems to just have a bit more punch and be a bit more direct. And I'm guessing it's just because it's audio. It's proper, you know, it's proper energy as opposed to numbers made up. So I'm going to do a video. I'm going to make some kicks in this. I'm going to redo them in kick 3 and look at the difference in them in a video. But the key to a great mix and dynamics and punch is sample choice and working on the sample. It's not how you EQ, how you compress something, how you do that. A lot of the time it comes from the sound that you choose for a great mix. And like that there with the bass, it didn't need limiting, it didn't need clipping, it didn't need any saturation. What it needed was to go into the audio and amend that first of all, and not get the side effects of those processes. Hey Helix, hey everyone, any questions for me today? One of the rules of using clipping is soft clip from the bottom and hard clip from the top. And the reason is what I just showed you. You can hear the kind of distortion that comes through. And it's just, it works better with those frequencies. And obviously you heard the hard clipping on the kick, it just distorted it too much. So that's something I wanted to say about clipping, because I keep getting tracks. I've got loads of clips on them. And the other thing is that distortion, it doesn't sound good at all. I might do a proper video on this and put a clipper on every channel turn it on and turn it off, and then you'll be able to listen to what all that distortion sounds like in the top end. But if you're using clippers, you don't really know what you're doing. Instead of, I use standard clip a lot because my ears can hear it. Use something like K-Clip, and use the Delta mode and listen to what you're adding to the mix and tune into it in Delta mode, and then tune into it in the mix on and off and see what it's doing. Because I would say to you, if you don't really know what you're doing with a clipper, your track will sound better if it's going to a proper mastering engineer. The way they will clip the whole track and limit the whole track would sound a lot better than if you did it yourself. So, I don't want people using clipping before they're choosing the right sounds and getting the mix sounding great. Clipping's an afterthought, really. And the dynamics and for me, the transients are the most important thing. So I don't want them to be smeared by lots of distortion or saturation or anything like that. Bashi said, could reducing the velocity on that particular note also help in not poke through as much? Well, the answer to that is yes. And like, not clipping, but with vocal compression, if you've got a vocal and there's one word sticking through or a couple of words sticking through, you might think, oh, I'll compress that, okay? And it gives that, but what happens is the side effect of that is it's going to increase the body of it. And if you're trying to put a compressor on to give the vocal more body, it's going to hit harder on those two notes and just be closer to the distortion. So you're always better off going into the audio and cutting them levels down to the track, not in isolation. And the thing about compression is people sing softer than louder going into the chorus quite regularly. So if you've got a compressor on the verse and it's hitting a couple of notes that are too loud in the verse, when it gets to the chorus where they might sing it a dB louder, everything's getting overcompressed. So sometimes it's a good idea to first of all go into the audio so it works with the track, and then compress the verses and the chorus separately, or just change the threshold by automation. But turning down the notes wouldn't necessarily help in this case, because I like the volume of the note. Don't forget, I'm not using my ears, I'm using my eyes just to see that that's poking through and that's going to hit it. And what I'm going to try and do is just see what I can do just by editing the audio, to reduce that. Like, why is that one note like that? And we found out by going back into the audio, it's because when I looped that audio, I recorded it in, I didn't do a fade on the end. We've got a few new people on tonight. Let me know if there's anything you want to ask about music production. I did want to talk about clipping tonight. It is important, and I want as least distortion in my track, right? That is, unless I'm adding a distortion for that exact reason. Bashi said, I've been trying to use volume automation more frequently. The key, I automate most things at the end of the track. I get the track finished and I'll automate most things when it comes to volumes, when it comes to releases, decays. And that's what a good mix is about, is the journey and just little things happening every now and then. Sometimes I might have the kick a dB lower in volume than when the bass comes in, so the kick lifts up as well. Sometimes I'll always automate the breaks, so when the kick with drop comes in, it just raises a little bit. Not that you can hear, but you can feel it. So automation is really, really key. But automation really wasn't kind of what we were doing there. Yes, Victor, Devil Tongue. I understand untrained ears can't pick up the imperfections, but I like the kick without everything else on. And that's the key to it. The key is knowing what you want and listening to everything that you're doing and going, do I like that? Do I not like that? Not, is that right or is that wrong? Which we all do as we're learning. You know, is if it does add a bit of distortion, people will add clipping and distort things because they want to get that sound. It's down to you what you like. So this track isn't finished, to be quite honest with you. It's just still a work in progress, but yeah, I definitely like what the DBX is doing to it. And I definitely like what the Spectre's doing to it. The Clipper. Can you hear any difference? Let's try this. Did add a little something to the kick in that frequencies, but I quite like what it's done. It is a bit of distortion. It is slight, and I like what it's done. Okay. Bashi, when mixing for loudness, are you putting any on the master to try to achieve the same loudness as reference? No. Well, yeah. It depends. You know, like I said to you, I'm trying to get the least amount of distortion in my tracks. And I like my tracks to be mastered by somebody else, just for a second pair of ears. And those people, their ears are 10 times more tuned than mine, okay? So when they're tweaking it, I let them use a clipper or let them use a limiter. And because I'm going, you know, I like mine to get mastered analog, or sometimes I'll just say, right, I want this to go through a summing mixer, or, you know, just have a bit more depth. Then I'll let them decide whether it needs the clipping or anything else. I'll just look at it like this and say, is something really sticking out? You know, things like snares and really transienty things can really cut through, and they're the things that are going to really hit the limiter. And the thing is, by the time they're taking 2 dB off the snare and then they start hitting the clip, that snare or whatever's cutting through will start to break up, you know. And really, you could have sorted that out beforehand with a clipper, so the first thing the limiter hits is the kick. And that's only in this kind of music. Bashi. For you, if you don't know what a clipper does, don't use it. If you can't really hear what it does and deciding, you know, the first thing you've got to say is like, I'll look at that oscilloscope and I'll go like, what am I trying to achieve? Right, I'm trying to make it so that when the master engineer is limiting, the first thing he's hitting is the kick. And the reason why I want to do that is because his ears are better than mine. Yeah, he does it all day long, and he is doing it all the time. And I'd rather him get the most out of the kick, which is the loudest part, and the clap and the bass when they're all playing together with what he's got, than if I know it's going to mastering, than me just keep adding in distortion to do it. Now, if I'm mixing it myself, I will put on a clipper on the master and different stages, and A/B on and off, and listen to it and see what it's doing. Again, you know, the master might be a bit more saturation, adding saturation in there with the soft clipping, which might help. You've just got to use your ears and decide which is better or worse. But you've got to be able to hear when it's breaking up, and you've got to be able to hear those top frequencies, which are really, really hard. And I always prefer someone with a second pair of ears to really squeeze it on the master. But generally when I mix like this, you know, I also have one good quality kick and one good quality bass, and you know, I won't have 3 basses together or 3 kicks or, you know, loads of. I'll get high quality samples, so there's less energy, less voltage collectively going into the limiter, And that's the key to it. The first thing you want to be looking at is your individual sounds, because I could pull you up a couple of kicks which sound like the same volume, yeah, but one is 3 dB higher on the numerical volume on the fader, right? So what you want to find is a kick that sounds really loud perceptively, but numerically it is lower. And like an analog kick will do that for you a lot of the time, you know, and that's why I've got that kick. I've just been obsessed with my kick since Kick 3 came out, and finding one quality sound, yeah, per frequency, as opposed to making a sound up of 4 sounds or 5 sounds or putting loads of stuff in. That's more important to getting loudness than clipping everything. So, yeah, any more questions, anyone? That's what I'm here for. We're on the 27th of January. I've done most of the month, and they've gone really well. So I'm going to keep, obviously, some of you are doing the one-to-one mentorship with me. And if you've just come on live tonight, I do one-to-ones, and I have a specifically designed course or syllabus which works based upon where you're at in your journey. We listen to your tracks, and then we take it from there. And I take you back to the fundamentals most of all, because that's the most important thing. Like, you know, one of the key things that people don't do is level match everything. So you can't put any plugin on anything without level matching it, right? Because if it generally, most of the time when people say to me, it sounds louder. And then when I level match it, I go, okay, what's that doing to the sound now? And they don't know. So we'll listen to the bass, and you get rid of the bass. All you've done is turn it up. You've got to always level match every plugin, and that's one of the fundamentals that most people don't do, and it's crazy. So, yes. Any questions? So you like the wide bass? Okay, let's have a listen to the bass. Oh, right. So yeah, I've used this new plugin. I think I might have done this the other night. I've got this new plugin called Basslane. It's quite an old plugin, but I've just started using it. And what it does, it creates harmonics on the sides only, as opposed to stereo spreading the whole sound. So let's listen to this on and off. I do like that. It makes it sound wider, but the question is, you know, what is that doing to the track in the mix? Is it taking away from the punch of the bass and dynamics of bass with everything else in the center? Now, the center doesn't change, because that's the good of this plugin. So this is it before. Let's just start mono. This is after. So this is adding a bit of volume on the width, which is a problem with stereo spreading. But when I mono it, that bass isn't changing in the center, okay? But is that width distracting me from that punch of the center? That's the question I've got to ask myself. So let's have a listen to it in the mix. So it was taking it away from me. it was kind of sitting in front of the actual bass a bit too much. So I've taken the amount down, and it sounds really good, and I like it. It's a really good plugin, this, for adding width to bass. But anyone who knows me knows mono signal's got to be great, and this is a new plugin that I'm using quite a lot, and I'm very mindful about what it does. Even though in mono the track will sound right, but how I hear the mono when it's in, and the punch of it, because the kick and the bass are what making me what grooving my body in the club. It's the offbeatness of it, and if you're adding stuff in, you know, harmonics in, it is affecting the transients coming through. You know, it's very similar. It's very similar frequencies, so I want them to be sat back in the mix a little bit more. So yeah, that's a really good plugin. I really like that. The piano's wide. Let's have a look at the piano. Okay. So I've recorded that in. What have I done to that? I've added a bit more transient, around 300. I would have done that in the mix with Spiff. That's adds transient, multiband transients. Bit of EQ, bit of saturation to the whole piano, around 2.5K. No, I haven't done anything to that to make it wide. The piano must have just been wide naturally. But I have recorded it into the SP2400. Let's have a look. Yeah, just a natural piano. Again, I've just chosen a good sound. If you can find a really good piano that's wide and naturally wide, and you're not having to layer it, that's less energy going into the limiter. But it does decrease in volume a little bit in mono, but the track's still there. And you know, I've not finished this track. In the acid, I'm going to use the 303 behind me over there. I'm going to use that on it to get a better sound and a better melody to really work with it. But yeah, making things wide is important to me, but without sacrificing the mid range, the mid of the track, because that's where the energy is, that's where the punch is, that's where it comes through. And when you stereo spread things, A, you can smear transients a little bit, but B, because you're adding stuff at the side, you're taking away the attention of the center. And so if you are adding things to width, just make sure it's not too much that you're taking away from the center. That's why I do a lot of width on parallel or on a bus. And then you can bring the level up so it's not affecting the mid-range as much. And you can EQ it better as well. I generally don't put anything to do with widening or reverbs and stuff like that on the sound. I'll generally put it on sends or in Ableton, do a chain in the rack. So yeah, any more questions, anybody? Hey Nine Northtown said, I think my clipping issues are with synths and such more than drums, and it seems a lot more delicate, if you will, to adjust without losing loudness. Now, I've got to say, you know, most tracks, dance tracks, the kick is the loudest thing in the mix. So if your synths are really loud, maybe you need to just look at the volumes. Because I generally, like, my pianos sound loud there, but the kick is always the thing that drives it. And a lot of the tracks that I hear, the kick is generally the loudest thing. Okay, any more questions, anyone? Or we'll wrap it up. Have you enjoyed these streams that we've been doing? Like I said, you can ask me anything that you want to ask me. Bashi said, I noticed in the track you kept the bass wide and had some lead sounds a bit center. Okay, right. So, yeah, the organ, the M1 organ is center and the acid is central, but I'm not using that acid. You know, I'm not gone to town on the acid, but I will because I'm going to use the 303. It's just in there as a guide for now with this track, and I'm going to go to town on it and make it a bit more authentic. It just sounds a bit presetty at the moment. 9 Northtown said, yeah, mine are. I mean, to keep the integrity of the sweeps and velocities. Listen, like I said before, the clipping is only if you need to use it, right? If something's going on and it's going too loud, then turn that bit down with the volume. The fade is always the first tool that you use. You know, every effect has a side effect. What's the side effect of the clipper? Well, you think you might not be able to hear it, but you're adding distortion. So it's the last thing that I would go to. Victor, I'm going to contact you in the next few days regarding that vocal. I'm sorry, I've been absolutely flat out. So yeah, good session today. I hope you learned quite a bit about clipping, and if anything, be very careful with it. You know, if you are going to use it or you want to train your ears, use K-clip or something with delta mode in it, because you're going to be able to tune into the frequencies added and listen to the difference between soft clipping and hard clipping, which is what we did. It's hard. It's a hard thing to tune, especially if you've got lots of hi-hats and stuff like that. And really what it does is, you don't know it, but on the big systems, that distortion will be affecting your transients. Okay. So yeah, so I've got some vocals here for this track. I've got to go through them all. And, oh no, don't say I've deleted them. Oh, I've deleted all the vocals. I did have some vocals for it. I've deleted them all. I can get them back. So yeah, good session, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Hiya, Pengi. Hope you're good. Before I go, anything you want me to talk about over the next few days? Okay, great. You can leave a message on this. Please like, share, subscribe if you're interested in the one-to-one mentorship with me. It's a great program that people have just transformed the way that they start thinking about making music, the way they mix the music, and how they're getting great finished music based upon me doing a one-to-one and looking at them in particular and where they've got room for improvement and highlighting the fundamentals they need to know to improve. So you can DM me on any social media platform at Jason Hearn Music. Please like, share, subscribe. Please leave comments afterwards, and I'd really appreciate it. And I'm going to start making more videos, like proper detailed videos to put on my YouTube page. I just wanted to do a few of these in January. So let me know. Have a great evening, everybody.